January 21st marks the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a true civil rights legend. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went to college at Moorehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. There in Atlanta, Georgia, he met Earl Nance Sr., who a lot of folks in St. Louis, as you can see, we're in Fountain Park here in St. Louis, Missouri. A lot of folks here in the community, they know Rev Earl Nance Sr. from Greater Mount Carmel Church. He was roommates with Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, you heard it right. The same pastor that you know right down there in Mount Carmel, and don't get me wrong, now it's Earl Nance Jr. His son has taken up the torch as a reverend, as a preacher, going back to Martin Luther King, to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Because and as I hear about more from different people, he didn't ask for this post, you know. But you think about it, the guy had a PhD. That's glowing, you know. When you want to push a guy in front of a number of people, you know, especially we're talking about race relations, and it's the black man, he's not quality. He doesn't have the mental. He just doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. But when you see a guy with a doctorate, a PhD, you can't deny it, you know. But going back to it, Reverend Earl Nance Sr. went to college with Martin Luther King Jr. at Moorehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. You know, I'm about to show you folks. I have a speech that he did at Powell Symphony Hall. I'm talking about Reverend Earl Nance Jr. now, not the senior. From Powell Symphony Hall after the MLK March, I think 6 to 8 years ago. I'm going to show you that speech. It's a great speech, folks. 6 to 8 minutes. I don't even want to spoil the speech for you. But the biggest thing to remember, folks, you know, this is, you know, you got to pass it. We got to pass this stuff down. You know, how do we know what's important? Our parents told us. How do we know what's important? Our ancestors told us. You know, one thing that we know, being good to people is a good thing. You know, we don't want to discriminate against a person because of skin color, because of nationality and things like that.
Just for a minute, let me share with you. Dr. King said this at Yale University in 1963. From a speech when he was receiving an honorary degree. When outrage and shame together shall one day have vindicated the promise of legal, social, and economic opportunity for all citizens, the gratitude of peoples everywhere and of generations of Americans yet unborn will echo our admiration. What makes an American hero? As an African-American leader, Martin Luther King Jr. courageously and selflessly led a nonviolent campaign for social justice that offered a beleaguered black community an enduring self-image of worth and dignity. I am black and beautiful, he told the students for a black high school in Ohio. The struggle against oppression began with the struggle against shame. King's message was one of black value and self-esteem. But his message reached far beyond America's black communities. As a leader of all Americans, Dr. King echoed the most sacred texts of American democracy through the words of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Through a soaring and hopeful oratory, he illustrated the injustice of segregation and captured the imagination of people from many different backgrounds and faiths. Martin Luther King Jr. became the conscience of a nation, proposing the only course of salvation for a country of so many colors and cultures is to find a way to love one another and live peacefully together in mutual respect. Reaching far beyond the United States, his rhetoric touched the oppressed and the downtrodden around the world. Throughout King's public life, controversy swirled about him, and there were those who sought to discredit him as a communist or an agitator who inspired violence. The increasing militancy of his push for equality particularly when the struggle moved to northern cities, frightened many political leaders. But it was always tempered by his passionate commitment to nonviolence and his dream of the beloved community of truly integrated America. These accomplishments made Dr. King at the age of 35 the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. Martin Luther King Jr. offered all Americans a vision of what the United States could be and crossed the barrier from African-American hero to American hero. I first met Dr. King in 1962 when I was 9 years old at the Washington Tabernacle Baptist Church, where my late Uncle John Nance was then pastor, and my father, the late Rev Earl Nance Jr., had brought in Dr. King to speak and raise money for the movement. My father, Dr. King, were good friends and went to school together at Moorehouse College and became an advisor to him during the movement. I remember so vividly, they came out from behind in the office, came to the pulpit, and I could see my father beckoning me to come to the pulpit to meet Dr. King. What a thrill it was when I got there. And he asked me a question. He said, "Son, do you know why we're here tonight?" I said, "I think so." He said, "Son, we're here because we're trying to make a way for your future. And little boys and girls like you will have a future in America." And I said, "Yes, sir." Fast forward to 1968, I was lying on the floor at home, 4559 Evans, and the phone rang. And my father answered it. And it wasn't long before I discovered it was Dr. King on the phone. Dr. King was at the airport in between flights, and he called for my father to come and meet with him. And there they talked about organization of the Poor People's March in Florida. And he told my father, "When I get to Florida, I'm going to call you. I want you to come. I want you to be the chairman for Missouri." My father consented yes. He said, "But first I've got to go to Memphis." And we all know what happened when he got to Memphis. And instead of my father going to Florida, he went to Atlanta for his funeral. What happens when a dreamer is attacked and his dream deferred? I'll tell you what happens. The same God who gave the dream uses those hardships and evil acts which were meant to destroy God's servants as a means for fortifying and strengthening the dream. What King was saying when he talked about believing in his dream in spite of nightmarish realities is the same thing that the church at Corinth and every black person who has struggled and met disappointments and still got on to victory has said. "We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed." His body could be killed, but neither King nor the dream itself could be destroyed because King had learned to trust the God of his mother and father, the God who had set his soul on fire. Always remember, because of men like Dr. King, we have nothing to be ashamed of. We have a proud heritage. Let me call the roll. For every Paul Revere, there's a Crispus Attucks. For every George Washington, there's a Frederick Douglass. For every Susan B. Anthony, there's a Harriet Tubman. For every Albert Einstein, there's a Dr. Charles Drew. For every Larry Bird, there's a Magic Johnson. For every Stan Musial, there's a Willie Mays. For every John Carson, there's a Arsenio Hall. For every Bob Hope, there's a Bill Cosby. For every Robert Redford, there's a Denzel Washington. For every Julia Roberts, there's a Halle Berry. For every Ginger Rogers, there's a Lena Horne. For every Barbara Streisand, there's a Whitney Houston. Before there was an Ellen DeGeneres, there's an Oprah Winfrey. For every Billy Graham, there's a T.D. Jakes. For every John Fitzgerald Kennedy, there's a Martin Luther King Jr. For every Bill Clinton, there's a Barack Obama. So I tell you today, in spite of difficulties, don't ever give up. I know somebody who can make the crooked straight and the rough places plain. I know somebody who can drive the tears from your eyes and make a way out of nowhere. I know somebody who can heal your body when the doctor says die, the Lord says live. I know somebody. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you tried him? Do you love him? Yes. I love him because he first loved me. God bless you, God keep you.
What sticks out in your mind most about Martin Luther King?
Two things. When I met him and watched him speak, and then watched him after that over the intervening years, I was impressed and struck by his humbleness. He was a very humble man, yet a powerful man. By his courage, by his spirituality, by his speaking abilities, by his intelligence, by his friendliness and his neighborliness, and by his determination and dedication. After accepting an assignment that he did not look for, he was drafted into this, but he didn't turn his back on it. He charged fully ahead. The second thing is, around in late March of 1968, I was at home watching TV on the floor. My father was sitting behind me and the phone rang, and it was Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King was at the airport in between flights. He was on his way to Florida to check out sites for the Poor People's March that they were putting together. He asked my dad, since he had a long layover, to come to the airport so they could talk. And he told my dad that he wanted him to be the chairperson for Missouri, for the people coming to the Poor People's March and Settlement. And said, I'm going home to Atlanta, and then I'm going to Memphis. And of course, he when I get to Memphis, I'll call you. And of course, the call never came, because after he went home and went to Memphis on behalf of the sanitation workers, he was assassinated. So instead of receiving the phone call from Dr. King and going to meet with him again, my dad wound up going to his funeral and marching in that long procession for his friend.
As a minister who works to get people to follow the Bible and things of that nature, and we're talking about Martin Luther King and his dream, how would you help people understand Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream in everyday practical life? Like you say, hey, follow the Bible, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. How would you help a person understand Martin Luther King's dream and what he most wanted to accomplish?
You have to keep the story in front of people. You have to share the story, you have to tell the story. That's how history is passed on. You have to relentlessly and religiously pass the story on about Dr. King and about all the sages of the past who have helped build this country and yet were discriminated against. And yet they still helped to build this country. And therefore fought for the recognition, fought for the rights that other people had to live equally in this society. And it has to be made clear that they were hard fought. And since they were hard fought, you have to fight just as hard to keep them, because there are forces that are trying to systematically take those rights away. You see it in the voter suppression. You see it in the attitudes where, with this current administration, people are free to just say it in any kind of racist remark or statement that they want to, even from the President of the United States, who says after Charlottesville that there are good people on both sides. So it is a constant, relentless charge of educating and letting people know where we've come from and where we need to go from here. And that has to continue. And as a pastor and a preacher, we know that we have to constantly talk about it until we are called away.
If Martin Luther King was still living now, in 2019, and looking at the state of race relations, how do you think Martin Luther King would think that the world is?
He wouldn't be satisfied. He would see that we have the right to vote, but he sees that being threatened by voter suppression. He can see, after working with presidents like John Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, in the attainment of these rights, that you have a president now that has opened the way for racists to voice their racist opinions and thoughts openly. But above all, he would be disturbed, deeply disturbed, by the senseless violence in the streets of St. Louis and other major cities across this country, of the needless killing of people caught in the crossfire, the killings because of drugs, and the people that are in the wrong place at the wrong time, even including our children getting caught in the crossfire. And it seems, and he would be disturbed by the fact, I think, that too many people are seeing these killings as sport. And it doesn't make a bit of sense. So he would be highly disturbed by that. He preached nonviolence. Nonviolence was the way that got us to where we are. Nonviolence will continue to be the way to take us forward.
How can we, and I know one of his biggest things was education also. That's why I love Barack Obama so much. Other than education and working together. Because I know to quell the violence, to quell the drugs, we gotta inform our people more and put them in positions that can win. Or do you have any suggestions about possible ways to get us on the right?
Well, the formula is there. Keep in mind, when Dr. King was killed, he was beginning to look at the economics. He was looking at equal access to economics and the ability for black people to buy their own homes and their own businesses and circulate their own money in their community. That's when he was killed. And we have to constantly uphold education to our young people. Now see, when I was coming up, and others coming up older than me, those old folks, those parents that didn't have a chance to get a proper education, encouraged us to make sure that we got it. Many families that were the first person in the family to go to college and graduate, things like that. While that is still there I don't see as much of a concentration on that with too many of our parents today. And I served on the Board of Education. I've talked with some of these parents. We have to get back to that teaching and preaching and encouraging young people to get their education and to be in line to get meaningful jobs so that you can earn money. If you want money, earn it. Even the advent of a Dr. King holiday was well fought for. To even get to this point where a black man in America is honored on a special day like George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or Veterans Day or Memorial Day, where people take the time and put aside other things to honor Dr. King and the sages of the past, was hard fought for. And it took all of us, it took pastors, entertainers like Stephen Wonder, Harry Belafonte, Tony Bennett, people like that to push for this day to happen some years ago that Ronald Reagan signed into law. So it's a struggle all the time, and the struggle continues. And we have to leave behind young people who are willing to continue to struggle.
Reverend Nance, this is a picture of Dr. Martin Luther King and a number of gentlemen. You say one of them is your father?
Yes, this was in the pastor study of Washington Tabernacle Baptist Church, where they gathered all these civil rights leaders to take a picture. This is my father, Rev Earl Nance Sr. This is his classmate and friend, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. from Atlanta. This is Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth out of Cincinnati, who worked with Dr. King. This was Dr. King's best friend, Reverend Rev Abernathy out of Atlanta. And this was Chris Malloy out of Illinois, who was well known in that area and was there that night.
Wow. I see on your wall also, sir, we got a couple other pictures. I see you got Ozzie Smith down here with you.
Ozzie Smith was a good friend, and I was a big fan of his play with the Cardinals. I also attended his Hall of Fame ceremony in New York.
Wow.
There at the Hall of Fame. Freeman Boston Jr., the first African American mayor who we supported.
First African American mayor of the city of St. Louis.
We have the great Lou Brock, Hall of Fame from the Cardinals.
Oh, wow.
We were there in Jefferson City lobbying for a new stadium for the Cardinals.
Wow.
Alfred Woodard, great actress.
Yes.
Spoke here at the church in 2002.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Jackie joined the courtesy along with my daughter there.
Oh, wow.
At the ballpark. This was the night before Jackie was going to her last Olympics.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Was taken at the White House. This is Bill Clinton at the White House.
Wow.
Yeah, that was his term. It was up. We were helping with that 2000 election there.
Wow.
And of course we got Hillary Clinton here.
Miss Hillary, the First Lady.
And that's when Bill spoke at Union Station after he got elected president.
Wow. And now I don't want to say it's my favorite president, but wow, you got a picture with Barack Obama?
Well, he's certainly mine. That's Barack Obama.
he's certainly my favorite.
Yeah. This was his visit to St. Louis after he got elected, and I drove in the motorcade for him.
Wow.
During that period of time.
Wow. Mm-hmm. How does that make you feel, meeting the first African American president of the United States of America?
Blessed.